Welcome to another edition of the Victory Life Legacy Spotlight. Today, I have another great sports family from the 757 from the Peninsula District. I have none other than Stan and Sherwood Jones, two of the Hampton High's greatest players, two guys that really wore that red and white and black very well. They got the red and black on today, courtesy of Victory Life. You guys can tell I'm really excited about this episode because I'm always big on paying homage to the OGs before me because without them, it wouldn't be a Dwight Vick. And you guys were integral parts of what we had in Hampton, man. But first, how you guys doing? Stan, Sherwood, how you guys doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. Just another Sunday afternoon, spending some time with some friends. I'm feeling good.
Sherwood, how you holding up, man?
I'm doing well also.
Yeah, man.
Well also.
Yeah.
Another day on earth.
God bless, no doubt, man. This is going to be a lot of fun because, for decades, Hampton High was the premier program, not just in the state of Virginia, but also in the country. And it's good to do history because now with social media, I joke with my son and daughters. I have three kids, they're starting now to realize I was a pretty decent player, right? Because, I have to go, thank God, we grew up in an area where they had Channel 5, Channel 29, now they call it Channel 48, where they recorded all the games. So I can kind of post them and show people, hey, that's your dad, or that's me, number 77. But, before we talk about Hampton High and the Crab and Coach Smith and Mitchell and all those guys, let's talk about your family, guys. Stan, I'll start with you. And Sherwood, you both can answer these questions together since you're brothers. Just talk about where y'all grew up, man, and what it was like during that time, the family, because I always feel like when you look at the great players, there's a correlation between how they were raised and what environment they were in before they even put that helmet on. So talk about just where you guys grew up and what it was like back in the day.
Well, we grew off of Bates Street, which is off of Jamestown, adjacent to Shell Road. Our father, was the recreational director at Phoenix Rec Center.
Mm-hmm.
My father went to Huntington, and he was an outstanding football player. He probably is the better of the three. Our dad is. He was real good. But I grew up going to see Huntington High School games,
Mm-hmm.
and I really didn't understand the difference between Hampton and Newport News. I thought I was going to be going to Huntington High School because that's where Dad took me on every Friday night. And then, I started playing football at about the age of 9. I played with the Kerry Colts because Boo Williams' dad, Marcellus Williams, and my father and Pat, the mother of Boo Williams, and my mother, they were very close. So we started playing Little League with the Kerry Colts, who had guys like Boo Williams and Mike Williams and Jerry Saunders, the current principal at Bethel High School. Brian Roberts. So that was my first experience playing football. And then after that, we played with the Ketans, which is affiliated with the Armstrong Vikings. And, the Ketan is like the junior team. And then I played junior high football at Jeff Davis. That was a junior high school because they split Shell Road up. You had people going to Lindsay,
Mm-hmm.
you had people going to Jeff Davis, and you had people going to Thorpe. But all along that time, football or playing sports in general, basketball, played baseball, Hampton with Little League, a Pony League. It was the family business. It wasn't that you had to be great at it, but my dad wanted us to experience the same things that he experienced growing up in Newport News.
Yeah. Sherwood, what do you remember, man?
Let's see. I can go all the way back in the backyard. I used to have on full equipment, and Miney, his name is Stan, but we call him Miney in the house. Okay, and I would go against him. He wouldn't have any equipment on, so he would, not really hit me hard, but hit me enough just to feel it. They get used to playing tackle football. And my dad would be at the door smiling and loving it to death. And then my track, I eventually ended up playing at Armstrong Vikings. And Then I played at Key 10 also. And then after Key 10, I eventually went on to play JV football at Hampton High.
Oh yeah, hold on, Sherwood. Hold on. I gotta ask you this for people that's gonna watch this interview. Because this 2021 now. So I listened to my guest and I distinctly heard you say backyard full equipment. Okay.
Exactly.
So first of all, like, hold on, your dad, y'all just was out there sticking, hitting, going through it?
Well, my brother didn't have any equipment on at all. I was the one that had the equipment on.
You remember the Christmas time you used to get the football uniform in a box?
Yeah.
I think he had a cow, his favorite team was the Cowboys.
Right.
Yeah.
So he had, the jersey, the shoulder pads. I mean, there's 7 years, 7 years between us.
Yeah. So, by the time I got to play organized football, I was already familiar with getting hit.
Yeah, no doubt.
Getting mushed in the face and, getting a little taste of the flipper.
The flipper.
Yeah. So I was already primed up when I got out there for Little League and I was ready to go.
Yeah, man. And I'm not gonna pick on today's kids. It's every generation feels like the one after them was soft. Some of your teammates, Sherwood, when they come back, they used to get on us. Not they didn't call it soft, but they would talk. I would hear stories, and I'll just put this on your legacy spotlight. I'll put it out there. I've always said, even when I was playing at Hampton High School, the further you go back, the tougher it was. And we're gonna talk about that. Yeah, you guys agree?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So let's talk about that. You guys, Stan, I'll start with you. You talked about how your dad, and for the record, shout out to your father in the Huntington High School program, because my dad went to Huntington. And, when Ronald Curry and Eric Hunt and all those guys were doing their thing, my dad always talked about Adolph Hawkins and all the guys at Huntington. He was like, integration and rezoning changed everything. And Huntington, I just want to put that on record and say Huntington was basically Hampton High before Hampton High, right? But Stan, you were the older brother, and you played in the era which it was really, I don't want to say cutthroat, but it was tough. Let's talk about who got, your dad was an influence on both of you. When did you know you were going to play for Hampton High, and how that whole process began? Because I know for sure it was a little bit different, but for you, how was that?
I would say probably about my 7th or 8th grade year in junior high, because I remember the first Hampton High game I went to was the sophomore year of Woodrow Wilson and Simon Gupton. And the first game was against Pembroke, and Woodrow took a punt return to the house. And from then on, every Friday night, Darling Stadium, $2 to get in.
$2 to get in.
$2. And then some of us got in by climbing over the brick wall.
Yeah. You guys, the reason they built the new one.
But that was probably 73 was the first year that, okay, this is where I'm going to end up, But Woodrow Wilson and Simon Gupton and Dwight Stevenson, Kenny and Ronnie Gilliam, Bobby Atkinson, Donnell Jones. I mean, that team would eventually win the state championship in 75. But that's when I really started to get into Hampton High football. And talking to the guys at the Phoenix Rec Center, Ricky Brown, Oliver Courtney, Corey Thomas, who was a devastating linebacker from the class of 75 in Hampton. So that's probably 73 when I saw that first Hampton High game against Pembroke. And Woodrow, number 44, took it to the house, man. It was like, gone.
It's crazy, man, because I was at Hampton last summer for my high school reunion, but I remember when I was in 9th grade, and Stan, I'm gonna stay with you on this question for a second. I remember looking at that team with Gumpton and Woodrow, who ironically were my assistant coaches when my 4 years on varsity. And Gumpton, even then when I was in high school, I was so scared of him because he looked like a transformer. I mean, he just walked around like this. He always had those tight red shirts on. And Woodrow was the coolest OG because Woodrow, he coached the DBs.
Right.
And But you know, their IQ, just talk about, Stan,
Okay.
just how good, you know, and Dwight Stevenson, my name is Dwight Vick, and I wore 77 sometimes, most of the time 57. And I remember Coach Smith said, Dwight Vick, last time we had a Dwight, his name was Stevenson, and he was talking about Dwight Stevenson. I went home and asked my dad, and he was like, do you know how good Dwight Stevenson was, Hall of Fame and all of that? So again, just before I get to Sherwood, just talk about how good those guys, because you said that's when you got to know about Hampton football, but how great were those guys, really? Because the shutouts were crazy.
They were great, man, because they worked hard. I mean, Hampton has always had, and I still think it, you know, Hampton High School has always had the work ethic, the grit, the mindset. The football field was an extension of the classroom. We would look at film and then go to practice.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of time in practice was not necessarily spent in drills and hitting people, but alignments. I mean, by the time I was a junior, I was a student of the game. And man, you know, we would go in and look at films from '69 State Championship, which was when Teddy Powell played for, Boo Ford, and all those guys, all the way up to the present time that we were there. So I would look at film from when Simon was, because I played the same position as Simon. So Coach Tyson, who was the line coach, always encouraged us to go look at the whole film. And so by the time I was a junior, I could tell a guy, I could line up in front, you play offensive line. We could tell you what you have for breakfast in the morning. We're that close. And so if you put a lot of leverage on that front hand, I pretty much know it's going to be a run.
No question.
If you kind of lined up on your heels and maybe your fingers are down for the 3-point stand or the 4-point stand, I could pretty much tell it's going to be a pass.
Yeah.
So we began to, we didn't, Lamont and Brian Holloman, who are two other great guys. And I'll tell you this too, Dwight, on our street, Bate Street.
Yeah.
You have Lamont Holt, you have Sherwood. Both of them are high school All-Americans at linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
You have Brian Holloman and Desmond Holloman. One went to UVA, the other one went to Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have Kenny Williams, who was an offensive guard on the 80-81 team. So you had 6 guys on that street that made All-State.
That's crazy, bro. Listen, this is why I love this, because this needs to be reminded, because you will never see that again. You'll never see that again. But Sherwood, let's talk about what was your journey. Like, your brother played there, your dad was a great, you became eventually great. But when you were young, you don't know you're going to become a great. You're just trying to get to the crab. You're trying to make your niche. What was it like for you, as far as when you were going from an Armstrong Viking, rec ball, middle school, and then all of a sudden you get ready to go to the crab and play for Hampton High?
Well, Dwight, you have to understand like this. When my dad left the house, I was in the back seat going to the football game. So I was looking forward to that, watching the game, then going over to the side of the stadium and playing in my own football game with the rest of the guys. And knowing one day I was going to end up going to Hampton High. And some of the players, my brother already mentioned them, but like I said, when I went out the front door, I had Desmond Holloman, Brian Holloman, Lamont Holt, watching these guys grow up, and I don't think they realized I was waiting to take the throne. All right. Over at Sherwood Gardens Apartments, where we all met to play football, it was like watching a real game on TV. The guys took it so serious. And from that day on, I can name all people like Robert Banks, and I knew right then I was going to play linebacker, and that was the position that I was going to pursue. And I had so many people I could pick from. I'm gonna play this way, I'm gonna play that way, and to make sure that I was prepared to play. And Coach Mann did a hell of a job, man, of getting us together and playing that position.
Yeah.
Hell of a job.
Yeah. No, and we're gonna talk about we got a whole segment for Coach Man, okay? Because we got
Yeah.
Coach Man's story. We got to do him justice. But Sherwood, I'm gonna stay with you for a second because
Okay.
you mentioned Robert Banks. I remember again. I'm dark skinned. You guys can't see the chills I'm getting because I'm just like this is nostalgic for me because I'm younger than you guys, but I'm right behind you, Sherwood. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's one of
Right.
these things. Like I remember seeing Robert Banks one time. I was up at the school in middle school, and I saw him walking. He looked like a Greek god to me. Like he was just
Yes.
standing, and he had, he just was. I was just staring. I'm just like, that's Robert. But at the same time, I'm gonna be honest. For me, now it may be different for you and Stan Sherwood, but like for me, at the same time, I was supposed to go to Lindsay. My mom, though, she is still big on education, and
Right.
nothing against Lindsay. So I got into Eton Middle School. So I didn't. I played for Aberdeen, but I remember being at Eton and even growing up on Shell Road. You know, it was like if you played JV or varsity at Hampton High, and maybe it was the same at Phoebus and Kickingham and other schools in that region, but it was somewhat intimidating. I'm not going to say I was scared, but for me, Sherwood, I was more so like, man, I don't know. I wanted to play, but I knew the legacy and I mean, I don't know what it was in the 70s and 80s and 90s, but it looked like guys were grown men.
Mhm.
And was there any, because you grew up in a football family, was there anything you were ready to take the throne? So you had no fear or no concerns. It was more so like, I'm ready. I'm ready to
Okay.
go.
Oh, well, what's so interesting is I played JV 8th grade. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Uh, 9th grade, I went to varsity practice and I looked around and it was Linwood Lumpkins, Leslie Bailey, D. Powell, Marcus Campbell. I mean, it was some good football players that was on varsity. And I said, you know what? I think I'm gonna go on back down to JV and play another year JV. And a couple of other my friends was thinking the same way. And it was Keith Custers, Wayne McWilliams, Randy Pearson, Keith Powell, and myself. When coach said, okay, JV, go down and start practicing with the JV. So we took off running. All right. I said, okay, I'm gonna go play JV. So probably about 30 minutes later, Coach Smith comes walking to our practice and we look and say, oh, somebody must be in trouble. Coach Smith stopped practice and immediately he said, I want Keith Powell, Randy Pearson, Wayne McWilliams, Keith Custers, and Sherwood Jones. Y'all coming up to varsity with me. And I looked at him and I didn't say anything now. I just stayed in my mind. I said, I don't know if I don't want to play varsity. I'm not going to get no time on varsity. But I think he had already set in his mind. And when this, towards the end of this, the season, it was an article came out called the Kitty Corpse. Okay. And Coach Smith talked about when we went into the playoffs, he had to wait for some of us to come over from Lindsay in order to start practice because we was an important part of putting the game plan in.
Wow.
So by and I think I told you this. We was playing Green One, and I remember it was Randy Pearson, Keith, and myself. We had already talked about, all right, we're gonna stand on the right side of the sideline, and we just gonna chill. Okay, we got our jerseys, and we're just gonna sit back and relax, man, and enjoy ourselves, right? And then, lo and behold, Dwight, Coach Mitchell comes up to me, Sherwood, you going in next series? Come over here with me. So I looked at him. I said, okay, all right. So the next series, I went in the offensive guard. And then after that, the next series, Randy and Keith Powell came in. And from that game on, it was us three in that middle. And we did a hell of a job.
And what grade? And what grade was that?
I was a freshman offensive guard.
That's
Keith
crazy.
Powell was a sophomore center, and Randy Pearson was a sophomore guard. And we went all the way to the state championship.
That's amazing then, and that's amazing even in 2021. That's just amazing because I don't care what era. The freshman, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's great we're talking about this because what people need to do, they're watching this, that need to do is that didn't start that summer. It started when you were in the backyard with the equipment on.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because that's the preparation Coach Mann and Coach Mitchell And even for me, Gumpton and Gilliam taught me and all those guys, man. Excuse me. Stan, I do want to ask you this. We're back on you again. You know, every year, high school now in the modern era, it's, you know, you have code orange and code red for heat advisories. You know, now the NFL, they only go full pads 1 day a week. Now I'm hearing, you know, colleges and high schools even, it's a helmet and shorts. I mean, you barely even wrap up. Just tell everybody right now, for you, during your time at Hampton, and we'll get to Sherwood, obviously, it's probably going to be the same, but just for you, how before I ask it, you mentioned the practices were teaching, but let's be honest, it was also physical and it was brutal. The conditions, I mean, for me, and I played in the 90s, we didn't have the Model Gatorade water bottles. We didn't have this cute stuff. Okay, we had a water hose. Now, let's go back to that time, your years at the Crab. How hard were the practices? How physical?
So, I mean, getting back to kind of like what Sherwood said, when I came in there, you got to remember, I came there in the 10th grade, because you remember when we were in high school, we were 10, 11, 12. And then that's after I left Hampton is when Hampton, the city of Hampton schools went to the middle school concept.
Yep.
So you had freshmen through 12th grade in high school. But see, I came there the year after the 75 state team, which was loaded. They had 23 seniors on that team. I came in with the same mindset too, that I was going to be playing JV, man. I wasn't thinking about starting as a sophomore. That was the furthest thing from my mind. But the irony is that on that team, the 76 team was, by the way, we were 6-4. That's probably one of Coach Smith's worst teams. We lost to Lafayette. We lost to Lafayette. We lost to Denby. We lost to Minchville. And we lost to Bethel that year.
What happened that year?
Well, the cupboard, as we say in the game, the cupboard was empty, man.
Yeah.
You had 5 sophomores starting on defense. You had Pedro Phillips, who's one of your alumni at Virginia Tech.
No doubt.
Reggie Woods, myself, Isaac Jennings started as a sophomore as a safety. And then we had young guys on offense and defense. We had one senior start. That was Michael Robinson on defense. One senior. Everybody else was sophomores and juniors. We had, I believe, 2 seniors on offense. So that class of 77, you know, after we lost to Bethel, this is where we lost to Bethel my sophomore year. Coach Smith brings it in. We sit in the hallway that's adjacent to the locker room. You know, everybody's wore out, upset. You know, the fact that we know at that time that we were on one of Coach Smith's worst teams. We already knew that. Okay. And we were kind of down, man. So he came in and we set out and he before we got off the bus, I said, well, everybody, before you change, we're going to sit down in the hallway. We're going to have a little talk. And basically what he said to us, he says, it's the last time I'm going to get physically beat by a team. After Thanksgiving, if you're not playing basketball or wrestling, you're going to be in the weight room. Coach Mann and Coach Johnson going to be up there with you. Okay. And so he kind of set the table for, I think, later on that he put an emphasis on strength and conditioning. What started with my class, my sophomore class. Practice, don't be late for practice. My junior year, about the 3rd day of practice, for some reason, man, we were all dragging. And Coach Smith, I think, read the Junction City Boys book by Bear Bryant. For some reason, we were dragging. The expectation was that you had to be on the practice field lined up, ready to go at 7:55. The whole team was late, Dwight. He blew that whistle. And when Coach Smith, as you have your hat turned around now, his hat turned around was the signal that hell is about to come.
Yeah, it was like that for me.
That when he turned that hat around, look out. We called them sweetest laps. The whole team is lined up on the outside perimeter of the football field. Now, it took us a while to figure this out. The Jets are going to speed around because, you know, they're the fast guys. So it behooved you to stay together close. So you keep the guys that are dragging and don't have the speed, so everybody doesn't get spread out. Then we did 100-yard crab crawls. Not bear crawls. He called them crab crawls. Then we did we did a circuit, and I don't think nobody else is going to be late this week, Coach. I mean, he's talking to Coach Rich and Coach Woodard and Coach Johnson. But practice, Bowl in the Ring, was vicious. And you would have all, and it got down to right before we got into prepping for the first game, we would have one-on-ones. Now, granted, we were fortunate enough. I only played 5 plays on offense in high school, Dwight. 5 plays. Now, I knew all the plays, as an offensive tackle. I was the number 2 in case something happened. But we had enough players for only you needed to concentrate on your position. That's how deep we were.
In your years, just for the viewers, your 4 years, your 3 years.
76 to 78 was the football season. I graduated in 79.
Gotcha.
But I played 5, and I also was the backup long snapper. Right? Lee Blassingame, bless his heart. I mean, it was before the Douglas Freeman game. He wasn't feeling well. Coach said, Jones, you might have to do the long snap. It's cold that day. I'm like, oh, man, I don't want to be the problem. I don't want to, So, but anyway, practice was intense.
Yes.
And when the one-on-ones got into it, it wasn't no thud or thump. It's a term you hear now where you just wrap up the guy.
Nah.
No, we were full contact. It wasn't no 7-on-7, throwing out little screen passes and hitches and curls. No. It was mano a mano, man hat against hat. And every now and then, I remember my buddy Clayton White, who went to school with me at Richmond, he was playing tight end. And they ran a particular play to on my side of it. See, the thing, Coach Smith is strategic. You don't know that. Pedro played on the left side. Most teams are right-handed. But because of Pedro, they ran to the left, which was my side of the defense. I was the right defensive tackle or 7 technique. And they ran a 48-49, which is a sweep. I got double team. I got rolled up pretty good, man. Coach, man, come on. Jones, you gonna let them do that to you? You gonna sacrifice us? Run it again. and Clayton, and our roommates in Richmond eventually became fraternity brothers. But the thing is, man, I laid a lick on him that second time around. He's like, dang, man. But that's how it was. It was your friend, but one-on-ones, you were there to do a job.
Yeah.
It was no half step.
Yeah, no doubt. And just so you know, you played in the late 70s. I played in the early 90s, and it was the same way with the 100-yard bear crawl. Coach Smith, one time somebody asked for a water break. And the funny thing is, he was a backup receiver. Man, he might have been third team, David Losey. He said, Coach, man, when we getting a water break? And Coach Smith said, a water break, and blew the whistle, man. We had to bear crawl the whole field up and down just because somebody asked. And honestly, looking back, I mean, it was probably 101 degrees in the shade. The water break question was justifiable. I think Coach was just mad on how he asked for a water break. He felt entitled to one.
Right.
Sherwood, again, I saw you play, and around the way, you were a legend to me and a lot of guys. Your name rung bells. I saw you guys play on TV in person. But talk about your time as far as, once you were there at Hampton, the practices, how tough they were, the battles you had, and just like what Stan was saying, how was it for you when you were at Hampton during the preparation and all of that?
Well, we practice game speed. Practice was going 100 miles per hour. Coach Smith would stop. He'll go over details on certain plays, and then we'll have to run it full tilt. No walkthrough. Okay. The Meek squad had to get ready. Okay. And if they wasn't ready.
Hold on, Sherwood, because we got some viewers from Arlington and Kickinton and DC. Meek squad, explain that. That's our scout team, right? Just tell everybody, because you said
okay.
That everybody knows.
All right, the Meek squad was the guys that were selected by Coach Mann that he felt that would give the first team a good look.
Gotcha.
And most of the time, those guys that started on the Meek squad probably could have started on the defense or the offense.
No question.
But they had to wait their turn.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But those guys was expected to look at the other team's plays. Coach Mann would have them written on a cardboard piece of paper. You would look at it, and if you didn't run that play the way he designed it, you had hell to pay. All right, and that was the Meek squad. And believe it or not, and this, those guys took pride in being on the Meek squad.
Yeah,
because they knew they was they knew they were working, and they was going to get rewarded the next year once the senior left, and they was going to be prepared to play football. And like I said, game speed. I think another thing that helped us out too, man, Coach Mitchell. I don't know if he did this with you guys, but he would write all the plays.
We did.
And we would have to study those plays.
Yep.
And Lord, don't turn in your play sheet and watch what happens. You could get in a lot of trouble.
I saw it.
And we would get ready. We'd go in the gym, and Coach Mitchell said, okay, turn in your play sheets. And everybody pulling them out, Johnny on the point. And if someone said, man, I don't have my play sheet, ain't nothing I can do for you. You're gonna be in trouble. I got mine. We would turn them in. And so then when we went over to offense, Coach Mitchell would call the play out, and we would just point.
Yep.
And then if you didn't get your point right, you could get in trouble that way.
Yeah.
So when we went into the game, man, defense and offense, we was prepared. You know what I mean? And I truly believe if you beat us, it's because we beat ourselves. You know what I mean? And maybe just caught us at a bad night. But I always say, if you beat us, we take an hour break, we'll come back and probably rip the scoreboard on you guys and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But Coach Mitchell used to always talk about this every Friday night or every Saturday. I don't care who the team was, they was coming in to try to beat us. Because I remember when Lafayette beat us 14-0, the team and the fans ran on the field as if they had won the state championship.
Yep.
And if they would have won out that year, they would have went to the playoffs. They didn't win another game after they beat us.
Yep.
And one of their players said, if we don't win another game, we beat Hampton High.
Yep.
That's how important it was beating Hampton High.
And that's the legacy that Robert Banks and the guys before Stan started, that you guys carried through. And it's just amazing how big, for 40 years, 30-something years, Hampton, and even now still is when they are on someone's schedule.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Coach Mann will come into the huddle and he would say, 1982, Warwick had 6 first downs. We only gonna give them 3 tonight. Okay. And that's how he would talk to us. And that's how he would pump this. Okay, they got 6 first downs. Okay, well, we're gonna stop. They ain't gonna have no first downs tonight. And that's how he used to motivate us, and talk about the ancestors, man, and how important it was to understand that not only you playing for yourself, but you playing for the ancestors. And it was important that you went out there and gave 120%, because if you didn't, you was gonna have hell to play. I think we called it Black Monday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we didn't want no parts of Black Monday. Because I remember we beat Denby 50-7, I believe. And I'm quite sure you heard of Marcus Michael. I might be saying his name.
Yeah.
He ran a kickoff back on us. And it was 50-0, and he ran a kickoff back on us. And Coach Mann, first thing Coach Mann said, it's going to be Black Monday. They scored on us. That's forbidden, And we thought he was joking.
No.
Black Monday because somebody ran a kickoff back on us, and they scored. And if they didn't score, it'd have been 50-0.
Yeah. It's just great to hear these stories, man. And I just want to say this, man. It's just crazy because I wish I talked to you guys sooner in my life, in my career, because as you get older, you start to realize we were very blessed to have great coaches that saw the game. Because you mentioned how Coach Smith remembered. I remember Coach Smith, Mitchell, and Mann would just spit off stats, and we were over in Kempsville, 1990, just 1960, just whatever. They knew this. They would take you there visually,
right?
And it was amazing how they could just do that. This is again before social media, and shout out to Coach Mitchell. You mentioned Coach Mitchell, man. God rest his soul, man. I mean, he taught me so much because those play sheets you mentioned prepared me for understanding the game on the collegiate level.
Exactly.
Of knowing your assignment, especially me I played both ways,
right?
Offensive lineman, knowing that. Stan, I want to talk to you now. I want you to reflect and open up about your times as far as the battles, because again, each era is different. You were late 70s, but I see you post on Facebook all the time those articles in the Peninsula District former, athletes page on Facebook, and I always look at those because you see about, like you mentioned, Boo Williams' dad. I've never even heard about Boo Williams' dad. I didn't until this show. But you post on that page about the Bethel game and the Ward. This is the part I want you to talk about some of your toughest matchups or your best games, the nostalgic in Darling or even in a playoff game. You can go to a state championship game when you say, you know what, this was a game where it will always be special to me, because that's the beauty. Once your career is over, you hang those cleats up, you can reflect, you can now exhale and say, yeah, because when you're in the moment, you're in the moment. But what games come to mind when you think about your era at Hampton when you said, you know what, they got us that one year, but we came back and we had a goal line stand, or there was a pick six, or Coach Mann called this? Just take me back to a game that comes to mind. Or even
there's so many, Dwight, but I guess the thing, probably the state championship game in '77, we played Garfield. And the interesting thing, and I knew nothing about Northern. Most of us don't know about the quality of play because we live here now. But back then, growing up, you just know you're playing a school from Northern Virginia, from Woodbridge.
Yeah.
But the whole week was a psychological thing with Coach Smith. He said, well, we're playing against Garfield. They got two pools, and everybody's driving a Mercedes and a BMW to school. There's a bunch of rich, and we looked at film, but we didn't take them lightly. We knew that going into that game, we were 13-0. If we won that game, we would be the first team in the state to go 14-0, because that's when they changed the playoff sequence.
Yeah,
was beginning of my junior year. So we played against Garfield. It was tough, man. Back and forth. DJ Jenkins, who was our punt returner, I think we were up 6-0. We missed a PAT. We were up 6-0. And then DJ Jenkins gets a punt and runs it back. So they're up 7-6. And we had several opportunities, probably the first quarter, to go up 14-0. And Bill Brown, who was the coach at Hylton for many years, who won a couple of state championships there, was an assistant at Garfield. And the one thing that he said later on is that they knew that they could not beat us with man on man, because across at every position you had studs. So, they ran a lot of counters and a lot of traps. They ran the veer, which is a variation of the wishbone. Their dive, quarterback's going to hand off the ball. But I sacked the quarterback twice in that game because it became, Coach Smith didn't blitz a lot. But on the field, we would take advantage of certain things. And then when it got to the point where they had to throw the ball to win, we just went, me and Pedro and Reggie said, and James Fox was the other defensive. We said, we're going hats off because they're not going to throw a screen pass on us because they got to get the ball down the field. But the marquee drive, and I think that is the history of Hampton High football. We got the ball toward the end of the third quarter behind 7-6 on R3. 97-yard drive, we go up 12-7. But the key element for that drive was Isaac Jennings, who I say is pound for pound the toughest guy to ever wear a Crabber uniform. Mouse probably was about 5'9", weighed 154 pounds. But he will lay a hat on you. And in the playoffs, as you know, Coach Smith was famous for coming up with variations of the offense. He would run a power eye or offset eye. And we had a stable of running backs: Kenny Pickett, Greg Turner, Isaac, Eric Sidney, Sam Blackwell would come in there and play. But we ran 18 and 19. And those of us who played at Hampton, we had about 10 offensive plays. If you think about it, 18, 19, 48, 49, 65 and 64 trap, 61 and 60 trap, 42 and 43, which is ISO.
Yep.
But we ran those plays to perfection. We didn't do motion. We didn't do any fancy stuff, trips and doubles and all that. But that was a 97-yard drive. At least fourth downs that we had to convert. And they got the ball back with 2 minutes left in the game. That's how long that drive was. And it was cold that day. So I would say that's the biggest, in terms of memory. But the rivalry games, Bethel, Lafayette, Bethel was, my cousin went to Bethel, John Sturtevant, who played professionally for Winnipeg up in the Canadian League. In Lafayette, and my sophomore year as a starter, guess who I'm lined up against playing the 7 technique? Number 89 from Lafayette, a guy named Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna say Lawrence Taylor. Yeah,
it's crazy. And you're talking about a guy that you didn't know about him then. He was non-distinct, but he was around the ball. But the funny thing is, we saw later in the season, they were playing against Minchville and Darwin. And he's playing defensive end, and he's down the field. He intercepts a ball with one hand, flips around, just like he picked off that pass against Detroit on Thanksgiving Day, gone.
Yeah.
Like, who is that?
Yeah.
That's Lawrence Taylor. I mean, but we just played every game. You had competitive athletes. Phoebus was tough. Everybody talks about Phoebus. They were tough back then. You had the Jenkins boys. You had Brian Roberts, Jerry Saunders, the Horn brothers. They had some speed, but we just were relentless. We got around the ball, man. We had that year, you might have heard this. So that year, we had 14 games, and we only had 42 points scored on us that year.
Yeah, I did know that. Yeah.
We had 9 shutouts.
9 shutouts.
And as Woody talking about, Coach Van talking about, first downs, we were talking about shutouts.
Yep.
And it was a couple of times we were playing against Ferguson, by the middle of the third quarter, we got the game in hand. And the second group is in, and they getting close to goal line. Timeout. First team, get back in there. He wanted to preserve the shutout. That happened a few times when I was at Hampton.
Yeah, man. No. Yeah, we heard about it even in the 90s, man.
Hey, Dwight, if my mind serves me correct, 86 defense, we had 10 shutouts. If my mind serves me correct.
You are correct. You are correct. You are. Yeah. But for some reason, I heard more about the 77 shutout. I don't know why. It's interesting. Right. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that was,
Well, we lost 2 games that year also.
Yeah.
So maybe that
and also too, because I think that's early in Coach Smith's career.
Right.
And when you are head coach, it's a little bit more. I'm not going to say the other teams weren't special, but it's different then, because at that time, withstanding those guys, he's still setting the expectations that you and Sherwood and all of us and the Tyrod Taylors and everybody, had to live up to, because he was in the beginning. Because I mean, I forget that they went 6-4 at that time, because my senior year we went 8-2, and we could even show our face around Mercury Boulevard.
Yeah,
and the funny thing though, and I know if you'll get to this in your segment, but we always went back as alumni to talk with the guys. To when Robert was there, I was at Richmond. I can remember going in and talking to Robert and Kevin Gould. And a lot of fact that there's a lot of brothers, the Gould family is another family that you should consider for your show. Kevin and Tim. Tim played with me, but Kevin played on the 80-81 teams and also played defensive back at UVA. But it's just amazing, man, that this is Coach Smith's 50th year, by the way. This season coming up, 2021. It's the 50th season as a head coach.
It's crazy.
And when you look at the talent that has gone through that high school from him, and he's been in the building since 64, Dwight. He's been so Johnson, Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan, Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump, and now Biden. That's how long he's been there, man. And the thing is, he is such an institution at that school. When you walk by there, I'm sure you probably felt that when you were, you felt at home.
Oh,
when
yeah.
you walk in that building.
Oh, yeah, no question.
And the kids know that you went to school, because they know that we come back.
Oh, yeah.
And they want to, reach out to. I'm like, and that's the thing that as a marquee for being a Hampton and for my brother, is that no matter what team you played on, if you went to Hampton High and played football, we are a fraternity, a brotherhood, man. And only thing we want is the best thing for you. And when you come through there, hopefully you got some transient skills that you can take with you.
No question.
And you can apply to the rest of your life.
Yeah. And I agree with you. And that's well said. Sherwood, excuse me.
That's okay.
What years, just so everyone knows, I should have started the show off with this. What years were you at Hampton?
84 through 87, graduated 88.
So you graduated in 88.
Yeah.
So how many state championships did you win?
Played in 4 and won 2.
Yep, that's what I thought. Okay, so your same question I asked your brother. For you,
okay,
you were there in the 80s were crazy, because I mean, it seemed like every year y'all were not only in it but winning it.
Right.
I remember there was shirts made that had 80, just had all the 80s even after you left.
Right.
But correct me if I'm wrong. And again, you can answer this question how you want.
Mm-hmm.
Same question, like take me back to some of your best games or your favorite memories in Darling or in the region or in state championships. Because what I remember is the 80s came about the T.C. Williams battles, right?
Yeah. Well, I got some crazy stories in reference to T.C. Williams.
Well, go ahead. Let's hear
them. Well, first of all, I'm gonna start off that 84 season. We scrimmaged a team out of Northern Virginia called W.T. Woodson.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they were on the other side of town. All right, we scrimmaged them. They didn't give us no competition. Okay, so we go through the season and we end up playing Bethel twice, and Bethel beat us the first game. And like my brother said, you know, competitions like FIBA's, very hard hitting football game. Very hard hitting football game. Kick and tan, they gave us problems. I lost to them twice in my 4 years at Hampton High. They gave us problems. And let's see here. And then after that, we went through the Peninsula District. All right, we went into the playoffs, didn't have any problems. And then we heard we was playing another team from Northern Virginia called TC Williams. And okay, Northern Virginia, all right, here we go. They can't be but so good. All right. So at UVA, I'll never forget this. TC Williams got off the bus. Coach Smith comes in the locker room and said, her last one of them look like they're about 30 years old. So we sitting back like, what's going on? So when we get on the field, now you know how when we come out in the silent line, usually that's enough right there to intimidate people.
Mm-hmm.
And TC Williams was like, bring it on out here. We want y'all anyway. And I was like, wow, these dudes talking a whole lot of trash.
Yep.
And I think the only difference between the two teams, they had blue in their uniform and we had black in ours.
Pretty much.
As far as talent, they had just as much as we had. Okay. In the game, coach was trying to run Linwood Lumpkins, and every time Linwood Lumpkins got the ball, they was there to stop him, game tackle him. But they couldn't stop 60 and 61 track with Leslie Bailey. You know what I mean? But coach wanted to run Linwood. And then after that, a couple of things happened. I think we got some penalties. They made some good plays and then eventually scored on us. And then and eventually they got a field goal. So it was 10-0. And we learned a valuable lesson that day. And it all worked out for us. The next year, because that year we went 14. The next year, 85 season, we went 14-0.
Yep.
Okay, we ran through the Peninsula District. We ran through the playoffs. And I remember it was amazing. It was so funny. We played Monica, and our number one running back, I don't know if you heard of him. His name is Robbie Robinson.
Yes.
Robbie Robinson had bruised ribs, right? It was so funny. And they was talking about what Hampton High is going to do. So our fullback went to tailback. His name is Stuart Creighton. I don't know if you ever heard of him. All right. Well, Stuart Creighton ran for 238 yards that day in the mud and rain. Right. And so we beat, it was Monica, and we beat up, I think we beat them 38-0. And we was on the bus celebrating. And all of a sudden, Coach Mann comes on the bus and he said, there is a God. We got TC Williams next week. And Dwight, everybody on the bus, stop talking. Stop talking. I mean, it was like game face. It was almost as if we was getting ready to leave Todd State and go straight to Northern Virginia. We already got in quiet mode, like we ride on the bus, no talking, right? And so through practice and stuff, we was real hyped. We got into Northern Virginia, and we was in the locker room, and Coach Mann said, I'm gonna speak to the starting defense. So we went into the locker room. He said, listen, I'm gonna be truthful with you, and I'm just gonna say it the way I feel it. If we lose today, we're gonna have to find a cliff. That's all I got to say. Let's go. When we went out there and when the defense got it, I can tell you this much. We were trying to take those dudes' heads off because they embarrassed us the year before.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't do us like that.
Mm-hmm.
And God, like he said, there's a God that gave us an opportunity to redeem ourselves.
No question.
You know what I mean? And we played that game, and from start to end, we dictated that whole game. We ended up beating them 16-0.
Yep.
16-0. And then another beautiful thing was about to happen. Would have played them again in 86. but they lost out in the early rounds of the playoffs, so we ended up playing another team. And then we played them again in '87. And I think with that game, you know, we had a kid by the name of Rick Hunter.
Yes.
And I don't think Coach Smith was ready for him to throw the ball around like he did the next season. Okay. However, he did connect with Tony Hyman on a long pass.
You saw me post that, right?
Yeah. And I think that if we would have started passing more, I think we would have opened the game up. I mean, because it's like this, you know, once again, they beat us 10-6, but I don't think Coach Smith was ready to let Hunter loose, you know, like he did the Rock in the 86 state championship game, you know, and I think that if he would have allowed Rick to, you know, throw the ball a little bit more, I think we would have ripped the scoreboard on them that day. But we lost 10-6. It was a tough game. I think we ran out of time. We had the opportunity. Yeah, we had the opportunity to beat them, but you know, we just couldn't get ourselves together. But that's one game that I wish I could get back. If I could get that game, because I go like Coach Mitchell used to always say, you will remember this for the rest of your life. You know, this will go through your head. You know, I remember that game like it happened last night. And then you're talking about, and I mentioned a lot of schools that gave us, I tell you, schools that used to give us problems in Newport News was Warwick. When they had Ray Savage, Dirk Steele, the Bird Brothers, Michael Carmichael. I mean, those are some nasty dudes, man. And the only thing that separated us from beating them is they won't discipline. And when they used to start arguing with each other in the huddle, that's when we knew we had them.
Okay, I got a point to make about that.
Yeah.
So with the arguing with each other, I have a longtime teammate from Virginia Tech, and we had some battles. He's 2 years older than me, but Antonio Banks, who was a Warwick standout along with William Yarborough, he used to get so mad at me because he hated Hampton, like everybody did. And I told him, I said, whether it was Ferguson, Warwick, or even, you know, I didn't play against Heritage. It was built after I left. But all the Newport News schools, Denby, I don't know what it was, but y'all would be playing us tough. And then we would get you on the freeze call. We would get you to hold, and y'all would jump off sides, you know, because Coach Smith was infamous for doing the whole, you know, like, you know, just don't move, and the guys would jump off sides. And every time y'all start cussing each other out and arguing and then cussing the coach out, and then we just blow y'all out or pull away. I mean, you know, it's just crazy how that worked out. But at the same time, Sherwood, I do want to say this, man, like, when I watched your era, you know, I was younger, I didn't see Stan, but like, you know, Eric Hunter, man, just a few minutes, man. You know, I know you played with some great guys and you named some, but I always say, you know, in the era of the Taj Boyds, Ronald Currys, Michael Vicks, the Aaron Brooks, the Allen Iversons, the DeRock Crooms, and so many guys, I can go on and on that played in the Peninsula District, man. And I'm sorry if I omit somebody. There's so many guys, man. Marcus Higgins, so many talented quarterbacks. You know, even across the water with Aaron Spurr when he played for Wilson. I felt like Eric Hunter's legacy, as great as it was, do you feel like it's lost some? Because not because of the off the field troubles he had, because, you know, that was tough. But I'm just talking about it's because it was before you had the spread offenses and the 4 wide. Because if you look at Ronald Curry, they were going shotgun, Ahmad Hawkins 9 routes and wide receivers, and Coach Smith is the guy that wants to control the clock and beat you methodically.
Right. I think Hunter was forced to play in the bottom. Okay. He couldn't spread himself. He couldn't spread, like you said. I think the difference between the Ronald Curry area and Rick Hunter is he had a little bit more of a green light. Okay. And I think if Rick would have been able to go to shotgun and we had some receivers on that team that could catch the ball, I think it would have made a difference. I really think it would have made a difference. But but because, like you say, you know, Coach Smith is from the old school football. You know, I was smacking in your mouth. You know what I mean? And it took him a while to understand the game has changed. You know, and like me growing up watching Hampton High, I know there's a lot of times Hampton High got in trouble when the team was able to throw the ball on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if the team could throw, it was going to be some problems. Okay, I remember in the '86 state championship, the Salem quarterback was throwing the ball pretty good, and he was playing catch with his flanker, and it was giving us problems. Now I don't know if y'all ran this, but we had a call called Red 1. All right, and if when coach said, okay, Red 1, that means that gave me an opportunity to do what I want to do, is blitz. And I mean, it wasn't no crazy, but it was set up. You know, Weymouth and them would slide one way and then go back the other way, and I'll come in behind them, all right, to get the free shot. But, you know, I remember at halftime, Coach Mann said, that quarterback is killing us. What can we do? I said, Coach, we're going to have to put pressure on him. I mean, if we don't put pressure on him, I mean, you know, this game is only 7-0. I mean, if we don't put pressure on him, we're going to have trouble. And so go to Coach Smith and tell him that we need to put some pressure on him. And I went to Coach Smith, and he said, well, we're gonna run base. We're gonna run base, right? And then I never forget, you know, they came out, threw the ball, got about 20 yards. And I kept doing this. Red 1. And then eventually Coach Smith said, all right, go ahead and run it. You know, but he didn't want to run it. As soon as he gave me the green light, the game was over. You know what I mean? Because they didn't see the pressure on film. They didn't see that type of pressure on film. They saw us play a basic defense, stay home, cover three, but they never anticipated us blitzing the way we did, and that's how we was able, you know, end up beating that game 14-0.
I got a story for you, Dwight. My junior year, we're playing Bethel, and 2 years in a row when we played Bethel, it rained like crazy the night before, to the point where they had to put straw on the field. It was a mud bowl. So it was back and forth. We was up 7 at halftime, 7. I think it was 7-0. So right before the end of the second quarter, we're driving toward the end zone. This is the old Darling Stadium, the opposite side of where Thorpe Junior High was. And we had an 18-19 boot out, sprint out pass. And basically Sam Blackwell, who's playing flanker, or what probably would be called an X or Y today, but he was playing flanker. Basically a post route. And Kozlowski is going to have his guys prepared to play us, and they just set on that route. Intercepted was a touchback. So they go up 9-7. They kicked the field goal. Actually, it was 7-3 at halftime. They kicked the field goal. They went up. It was 3-0, and they scored. And Mark Roberts, who I know, was one of their quarterbacks. He missed the extra point, so it was 9-7. And it was back and forth. And they had probably one of the best backfields ever to have. Eric. Oh my gosh. EB, Eric Brown. You had Jimmy Gale, Sean Gale's older brother, and you had Benji Johnson. And they all went to, I think Eric Brown went to UCLA, Gale went to Ohio State, and Benji went to Kentucky. So they got the ball and they were trying to hold on to it. They would have won the game. But Benji fumbled the ball and we recovered it. We had it on about the 50. And Keith Horn was our quarterback. Now, Keith Horn had an arm. And we got down to like the 8-yard line. It was 4th and goal. And sure enough, Coach Smith had the same play call that was intercepted at the end of the second quarter in the first half. And we're on the sidelines. Go. And, Coach Smith always had, come over to the sideline, put the play in, or run a flicker in or run a back in. And so Coach Tyson says, "Hey, Mike, what you got called?" I got, something. He says, "No, Mike, call timeout, get Pickett in there, kick the field goal, take it to the house." Now, we're on the sidelines. We have never seen an assistant coach, no matter who it was, and Mike Smith argue about a play. It was like we was at a tennis match. No, we're gonna run the play. Mike, get Pickett in there. Kenny Pickett was our field goal, our point after and field goal kicker. And it was only like a 32-yard kick. Well within his range. He was kicking from the 30-yard line. So sure enough, Coach Smith walks all the way down the other center sideline. Tyson calls timeout. Mr. Official, call timeout. Field goal team, get in. Kick the field goal. We win the game 10-9. Mm-hmm. And that was the year that whoever won the Hampton Bethel game went to the playoffs. Yeah. So we had to win that game.
No question.
And the thing is, too, you probably know this, too. So for 4 years in the 70s, whoever won the Hampton Bethel game won the state championship of Virginia.
Yep.
And it would have been a fifth if Lafayette had won in 73. They lost to Patrick Henry Roanoke. But that 73 year, Lafayette was in the state championship. So you had 5 years where a team from the Peninsula District was in the state final.
Yeah,
And that Lafayette team had Ron Springs on it.
It's crazy, man. I remember the first time I went to Lafayette for a basketball game. I played football and basketball. I'd never been inside because, football is outside in the stadium, but we were playing basketball. Might have been my JV year, or might have been varsity. And I remember looking on the wall, and I was like, yo, hold on, cuz. Ron Springs, Mel Gray, Lawrence Taylor. Because during my time, Lafayette was suspect. They were a homecoming game. Right. I didn't realize until looking back and talking to Coach Mann and Mitchell and Coach Smith and those guys and the other coaches, Gilliam and Gumpton and Woodrow, that Lafayette was in the mix. Yeah. It's just crazy, man, how, things change in the Peninsula District. It's not the same now, rezoning kids aren't as interested. You don't have, I feel like, we are reflecting on the golden era of Peninsula District football. It's still some good teams, but it's not the same. I think the rest of Virginia has gotten better. Richmond, Northern Virginia now has a lot of talented teams and coaches. Even Southwest Virginia. I remember about 4 years ago, Blacksburg High School beat Phoebus in the state championship. I was like, what in the world? Blacksburg High School? But now with Class A, Division 5, Division 4, it's so AAA. I saw guys that were teams 2 and 10 making the playoffs now. Oh, man, yeah. I remember hearing stories about teams on the South Side and the Peninsula that were 8 and 2 that couldn't go to the playoffs. Now you got 4 and 5 records. But I do want to take a moment in this interview, and Sherwood, I want you to lead with this one because I want you to tell, because you and I talked as we prepped for this about 3 weeks ago.
Right.
We got to talk. I had to get off the phone because I had to work, because otherwise we'd have been on there all night. Cause
right.
I miss Coach Mann, because when I get with my guys, even guys that met him on the VHSL All-Star game or heard us talk about, I got friends that never even stepped foot in Hampton High that wants to tell Coach Mann stories.
Right.
I can share these stories in this legacy spotlight because he's retired.
Right.
But we don't have to tell everything, but
oh no.
Before I ask you about what we call contact, Coach Mann, I'm not going to say it was nothing illegal, nothing that was a Fox 5 documentary, nothing.
No.
But the way they coached us, the sayings, the quotes, like you talking about. I remember he told us one time, he was getting us ready for a game, man, and he was like, we only need savages. I need savages to go with me this weekend. If you're not a savage, don't come with me this weekend. But you tell me, how was it?
Hey,
yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Dwayne, but listen. One day we was in practice, defense practice, linebackers, right?
Yeah.
Coach Smith said, I dreamed last night that I was going to start making jet eye warriors. You're going to be able to physically run through people That's what I dream. We're going to become Jedi warriors. Okay, Coach been looking at Star Wars. All right. And freshman year, Dwight, first game, we in the locker room. And me and my man Keith Powell, we all were in the back. And I remember Leslie Bailey started crying, talking about they getting ready to take this from us. I was like, what the hell are they getting ready to take? What's going on in here, right? So all of a sudden the lights went off, and me and Keith said, hey, yo, I think this is when they gonna start contact. So we put our helmets on, right? So we sitting in the back like this, right? Like, yo, this is for real, right? So Coach Man couldn't cut on the light, and all of a sudden he said, who got their helmets on in the back? Who is that? That freshman Sherwood Jones and that sophomore Keith Powell. Come here. So we got up. He said, y'all ready to play? I was like, yeah, Coach, I'm ready to play. I'm ready to play. And then all of a sudden he was like, wow. He said, you sure you ready to play? I said, yeah, Coach, I'm ready to play. So I went and sat back down, and I couldn't understand. But remember what I told you earlier? Once I got in the game, my whole mindset changed. You know what I'm saying? I became that savage.
Yeah.
That he was looking for. Giving up your body. You know what I mean? Doing what you got to do to make the play work. You know what I'm saying? If you mess up, everybody mess up. You know what I mean? So, you know, we on the same sheet of music. And I think, and one thing about Coach Man, 100% motivator.
Oh my goodness.
You know, it made you believe that you could run through a wall.
Yes.
You know, it made you believe that you could run through a tree.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And those are things that we carry on in life. You know, I tell the kids, you know, things get rough sometimes, but when them bills hit the mailbox, I attack that mailbox. All right. Because I know those bills, if I don't do what I'm supposed to do to them, they can cause problems for me. So I try to knock them out before they get started. You know, and that's what we said. We're gonna stop the play before they get started, and we'll be successful. And those are things that I take from Coach Man. You know, we either gonna go around it, we either go over it, or we're gonna go through it. And that's the way I operate in life. But 100% motivator. Being around Coach Man, it was a blessing to have that guy as a coach, man.
Man, listen,
blessing to have him as a coach.
I love him more, man. I love all those guys, man. I love them now, but I remember you right. I remember being a freshman on varsity,
Right.
and it started raining really, really hard, and I was a freshman. That's so the seniors that year were, you know, Tar Cassels, Alonzo Cherry, and you know, Moose. We called him Moose. You know, Dwayne Thompson.
Yeah.
It was a lot of great players, man, and I remember it started raining real hard. So I'm a freshman. I really wanted to be on JV. I didn't want to be,
Right.
but I'm 6'4", you know,
Yeah.
13 years old, and Coach Smith won't let me go. I remember I said, I went in the weight room. I was like, that summer, he was like, because I was a basketball player.
Right.
Basketball? Your ass is playing football. And that was it. It won't even know. Let me talk to my dad. I was like, all right. And it started raining real hard. And it, you know, again, you know the rule of Virginia. It wasn't lightning where we were at, but it was lightning, you know, off, you know. So I was, So as a 13, soon to be 14-year-old ninth grader, I'm like, oh, we're getting ready to go home. Practice is canceled. Coach Man said, who's ready to jump off the ceiling with me, off the roof? Who's ready to jump? I need people to jump off the roof with no parachute.
Yeah.
And I was like, what in the world is he talking about? And all the older guys got louder and started screaming and turning their face to the sky. And they were slapping each other, man. And I was like, man, what have I gotten myself into? Because no one told me about Coach Smith. And Coach Smith let him do his thing, man. And you know, during my time, he taught art. He was an art teacher.
He taught art.
It was a great teacher.
Yes.
But the sayings, man, you know, he motivated us, but you know, he would say stuff because you could tell he was educated and articulate because he was talking about, you know, we're going to win with class, but when we get in that game, we're going to kill him.
Right.
And it was just amazing. I just, you know, I look back, man, because even now as a grown man, I take some of the stuff I got from them. And my final point about Coach, man, is
Yeah.
him and his family were the very respected members of the
Oh, yes, yes,
but he
yes.
knew he actually taught me, him and Coach Mitchell, how to turn that switch on.
That's right.
Because he
That's
gave that contact, right? So
Right.
before the game, we getting ready to play Bethel. And for those watching, at Hampton High, I don't know how it is now, but for years, when you wore all black, it meant it was a business trip. It was no games. It was
That's
payback.
right.
It was serious.
That's right.
And Coach, man, came in and he said, it's time for contact. So I already knew what it was. And you went
Right.
up there and he gave you, it was a light tap. Sometimes, whatever. And I don't know, we had a guy by the name of Coach named Lenny Franklin.
Uh-huh.
Coach Franklin. He was like Coach Man's right-hand man. He was
Right.
different businesses in Hampton and Newport News.
Right.
And Coach Franklin walked up. I don't know what he was thinking. He said, Coach, I want some contact. He said, you do you? And smacked the living daylights out of Coach Franklin. And I said, man. But anyway.
Hey, Dwight, I got one more story, man. Listen, I remember before one game, we'll kind of like know who the top running back is.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna pick a number like say for instance, it was number 32, right? And Coach Man, he was taping my ankle. He said, Jones, he looking around. Number 32 need to be out of the game by the end of the first quarter, physically or mentally, within the rules and regulations. I'm telling Coach, I told you that. Looking around. And I don't know if you ever got taped by him, but it was so tight.
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. So I was like, Coach, we got you. We're gonna take care of him within the rules and regulations.
I remember this one story where he told James Ward happened to wear number 77. He was one of our offensive tackles. And James was dogging it. And one thing about our coaches, they just didn't stick to their position. If they saw a problem and we listened, if it wasn't from Coach Tyson, whoever was handling the situation, he told James Ward, I'm gonna knock your face off your face if you don't get up.
Oh my good, I mean, it's amazing because you can't. And again, I'm not even hating on the young guys today, but I tell my son some of these stories, and he just turned 15 2 weeks ago. He's a freshman, well, soon to be sophomore.
Sophomore, yeah.
And it's crazy because he's like, what? I was like, hey, it was, and that era we talk about from Stan, your era to even Sherwood, and then even mine is, if you even look at the NBA and college football and basketball during that time, everything was physical.
Yeah.
And you had to be mentally tough, man, which I think translates to what you guys are doing now, which I want to touch on, man. You guys you have a great family, had a great career. And this is not about football. Stan, I met you when I moved to Northern Virginia. It's crazy how God puts people in your life. We instantly connected. John Mitchell told me about you, and then we connected. Another shout out to John Mitchell, another Hampton High.
Yeah.
And we hit it off, man. But you're having an impact now, Stan, in the community with, school counseling and mentoring, and you're over at Hylton High School in Woodbridge. And one thing I miss about, I would go over there on Friday nights, when Ricky Slade Jr. was over there,
right,
or other games, and sit with you. The game be going on. We sitting here talking to me and you.
Right, yeah.
But just talk about, like what you're doing now, since your playing days, man, because it wasn't just about the crab. It was more so about getting you ready for adulthood. Football is a great game, but now you're, a professional. You've been in the profession for a long time. So just, what are you doing now? Where you at? How long you been doing it?
I'm an assistant principal at CD Hylton High School in Woodbridge.
Mm-hmm.
I've been an assistant principal at Hylton since 2014, but I've been an assistant principal in the school division since 2006. Prior to that, I was a director of school counseling. The irony is that all three of us have a master's degree in counseling.
Yeah. I know, all of us, right?
Yes. and the irony is that so many of us are in the helping professions.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think it started at home. My mom taught Newport News. and my dad worked at the rec center. So both our parents were in the helping profession. And with the military background and with the educational background, it kind of prepared me. I didn't have to figure out what to do when I got into education. I left the military and I was fortunate enough to land a position out in Washington State as an intervention specialist, which led to me getting my counseling, my master's in counseling from City University of Seattle. But just working with young people, man, and trying to give them the lessons learned to keep them on the right path and make sure they understand that failure is not final. Fail means first attempt in learning, and no means next opportunity. If they can remember that, if they can say to themselves that, hey, I might not do well on this particular test, it's okay. There'll be another opportunity. Just like when we play sports, we got another game to play.
Yes.
We can't dwell on, but I think so much of our youth today, they're so used to putting an emphasis on, well, if I didn't get it right, I'm not going to try again. The grit and the adversity and the perseverance is not where it needs to be. It's okay to struggle. And that's another thing. Don't shelter kids. It is okay to struggle, because when you struggle, you get better.
Yep.
And then when 25, I'd rather for a kid to struggle at 16 and 17 than not to struggle at all, have a pretty easy ride to high school, pretty easy ride to college, but then at 25, they lose their mind because they have never dealt with adversity.
That's right.
That's the challenge that we have in today's world, is that we shelter our kids, we shelter them. And because we put an emphasis on AP classes and IB, I say do the things that you like with the advanced courses. Don't think that you have to take 7 AP courses at one time, because a doctoral student at UVA is only going to take 9 credits at one time. So why are we making 15, 16, 17-year-old kids take 5 and 6 AP or advanced classes just to say that they have it on their transcript, and just to say that, hey, I'm marketable for admission to, wherever school of higher ed that you want to go to? But the key thing is that you got to learn how to deal with adversity early on in life.
Preach, preach, preach. Sherwood, what are you up to now, man? I know you know my guy, Coach Bentley, man. I guess, are you in the same helping profession?
Yes, I am. Well, I moved here in '97, Dwight, and I was working in the Department of Corrections, and I got tired of doing that, and I said I need to do something different. So I came up here. Keith Powell helped me get a job in the school system. I was a resource coaching, and I decided, because I'd be truthful with you, I never thought that I would be in education, and I said, okay, well, what I'm gonna do is stick around. And I went and got my master's in guidance and counseling. And Miss Jackson, the assistant principal, came to me one day, and they call it in-school alternative, but really it's in-school suspension. Yep. And she was having major problems with the program, and because she couldn't get nobody to come in there and do what they were supposed to do. They'll let the kids have their way. So she said to me, listen, you got your master's, you're a former correctional officer, and you've been trained as a counselor, and you can deal with the kids that really give you a hard time because of your correctional officer background. So I had that balance, and I found my niche. And like I say, she put the paperwork in, a certified counselor. The money came with it. And I love what I'm doing, because we all know there's a lot of kids out there that don't have a father at home. And some of them, for the first time, when they run into me, this is the first time they've dealt with African-American male in the school. And I sit back and I talk to them. One of my biggest things is character education. And I always remind them, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. you know, and then we sit down and we talk about what you could have done different instead of what you did. And once they realize that, because a lot of our kids, you know, they act out because they don't have the vocabulary to express themselves, you know, and once they, and you know, they don't know how to communicate with the teachers, you know, like my brother said, they get frustrated, adversity sets in, they quit. You know what I mean? And what I tell them, you know, when adversity sets in, that's when you need to start reaching out to your teachers and letting them know this is my situation. And once you learn how to advocate for yourself, you know, you'll start moving in the direction that you're going. So I'm pretty happy about what I do. I'm 27 months from 30 years retirement.
Wow.
And March 1st, 2024, goodbye. and moving on to the next episode. But like I say, I was in town this weekend in Hampton. Not one kid was outside playing. Not one kid.
Bro, it's different. And that's not just in the 757. That's also, I mean, I see every now and then, but it compared to our time, and I mean, I hate talking like that.
Right.
I don't have a problem with I love kids. I work with kids, but it's different, man. You know, and they got more resources to play outside. You know, I mean, you know, listen, man, Park Place. I'm sorry, Sherwood. I get excited because Park Place.
I understand.
Shell Road Park Place.
Oh,
my trainers were the guys that get off their shift.
Right.
We played, you know, I didn't have a Dick's Sporting Goods. Our trainers were Vaughn and Greenbrier, Park Place, or when I got older, when I was at Hampton, you'd be, you know, fifth period, hey, yo, what you doing later? We getting ready to run over here to Riverdale, Fort Eustis. They hooping over here, open gym over at Ward. Like, we went to Newport News to find bump.
Right.
Our trainers, it was no, you know, hey, guys, we have an organized workout here at 3:30. It wasn't none of that stuff. I mean, and I was at 16 going against the guys that were 29.
Yeah. And you know, I'm saying, you know, what's surprising is, you know, kids, $150 to go to camp.
Oh,
football camp.
Yeah.
I said, camp?
Yeah.
My camp was right there in Shell Gardens. That was my camp.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like you say, like when I was coaching football, you know, the kid would show up on Wednesday and expect to start on Friday. And I would tell myself, man, I'll lose 100 to zip before I let you start.
You open up a can of worms now. That's for another legacy spotlight when I have a panel. You know, now, that's something, and it needs to be talked about. It's just a different time now. But with that being said, I just want to say this before, because we come to the part of our last segment of the show. But I want to say this too. I'm honored that both you guys are in the same profession as me, and you have your masters and you're making a difference. Because I think we could talk all night about the Lake Taylors, the Mauries, the Hampton, the Phoebe, the rivals, the state championships, the fourth down and goals. I wish I did this. We shouldn't have lost. But I think that's why I do these legacy spotlights, to highlight two great men like you, because as great as y'all were gladiators on the field, you're doing even bigger and better work right now. And anyone that's watching this, when you go and you check us out, I got plenty of shows like this, because I want to highlight men and women who are making a difference, who, yes, they use sports as their platform, but they took that and doing what you're doing. So, and we all three of us know we come from a city and we come from an area in the part of Virginia where even now it's always been tough. Hampton High didn't have air conditioning until 1994. You know, Sherwood knows this. The 80s, the game changed with the drug game, and you had more shootings, more crimes into the 90s, which was my era.
Right.
Everything got rougher. You had, you know, Stewart Gardens and Newport News, but you also had in Hampton, Lincoln Park, and Pine Chapel, and Shell Road. So we come from an area where there were a lot of Stan Jones and Sherwood Jones and Robert Banks and Gillian and Gumptons and all those guys who didn't make it. So with that being said, last part of our show, Stan, I'll start with you because you're the OG, you're the older brother. everything I mentioned, all the stuff you've seen growing up, and now you're in the position of leadership as an assistant principal, all the things God has blessed you with the opportunity to use football as a part of your journey, but you're so much bigger than that. What do you want to tell everybody watching this, especially young people that may catch this, or even older people who are still trying to find their way, going through their own adversity? What is the game of not just football, but life taught you so far? And what last points do you want to make about your legacy?
I think the critical element from playing football, man, is just knowing that you have the ability to get things done. And don't, if something doesn't go right, don't give up. And for the young athletes out there, don't wait till your 12th grade year to figure out you want to be a good student. Things might be hard, ninth or 10th grade year, you're kind of playing around, you're not focused academically. But as my man, what's the running back from Seattle? What's his name? Marshawn Lynch?
Yeah.
He says you got to get your mentals.
Mm.
What he's talking about is fundamental. Everybody's think he's talking about mental, meaning, emotional, but he's talking about fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
And the fundamental thing is go to class every day, participate in class, do the work. If you need help, ask for it. But make a commitment to yourself, because what you do in the classroom will either help you on the football field or not help you. And if you don't do the things you need to do, that's going to be a cul-de-sac for you. At the end of high school, you're not going to be able to go into bigger and better things. But the key thing is start preparing as a freshman, doing the work, putting in the time. And I think work ethic is probably, it's not something that's evaluated on a report card. We teach you how to drive, we teach you how to write, we teach you the quadrilateral formula, but we don't teach you work ethic. That is something that's internal.
Mm.
And you got to come with that every day. And, it's just about making the sacrifices. Our dad used to talk about making sacrifices. Sometimes you have to make sacrifices to get the things you want in life. And that's what we're talking about.
Yes,
is being able to make the sacrifices to do the things that you need to do. So when you walk out of whatever institution that you're in for learning higher ed or wherever, that you have a skill set. Because all of us can play on Sunday. We got to have a plan B and a plan C and sometimes a plan D, but have a plan and stick to it and make it happen.
Enough said. Sherwood, same question.
Oh, well, I think that something my dad told me a long time ago: education is better to have and not need than to need and not have. And I know for me, I started taking school a little bit more seriously once I got to high school. And I tell all the young guys, young ladies, that it's very important that you get your education. Everybody doesn't have to go off to college to be successful.
Thank you.
Right? But you got to get your high school diploma. Okay.
Yes.
And I tell unfortunately, some students waste 4 years and it can dictate the rest of their lives. So it's very important that you get your education. You learn how to respect people. That can take you a long ways. They say your skills will get you through the door, but your character is what's going to keep you there. And a lot of times, just like I think everyone is in this meeting right now dreamed about playing in the NFL. Okay, but that didn't happen. Okay, but I'm still relevant. Okay, I'm still here. Okay, I became a professional in life. All right. And I've been playing this game for almost 27 years now. Mm-hmm. And we all know, what's hardcore is getting up in the morning and getting in that traffic and getting to work on time. And program yourself when you go in this building. If someone says something to you that you're not prepared to listen to right now, that you have the ability to talk your way out of it and move on with your day. And a lot of times I think that so many of our youth are not getting the proper education at home on basic living skills that we can expect them to get on yellow bus and come to the school and respect what's going on there. If there's no parental guidance going on at home.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, one of the things, like when I'm walking around the hallway, as coaches, we're always looking for talent. Even if you're not coaching, hey man, you play football, you play basketball, and there'll be some big kids walking around. I said, you playing sports? Oh no, I'm in the band. Okay, well, you're doing something positive. You know what I mean? Try to motivate them. You know what I mean? Make them feel good about themselves. Because you're not playing football don't mean you can't play another sport or be good at something else. So I tell the kids, find out what you're good at, so you can use that as your vehicle to get to the next level.
It's awesome stuff, man, and wise words from two wise men. I want to thank you both for jumping on, man, and we finally got our schedules worked out, mostly me. But at least I don't have to run your stadium steps. This is my legacy.
All right. Yeah. Well, thank you for the opportunity, Dwight. I really appreciate it, man.
No, thank you guys both. And I just want to say this to everyone, all the fans, friends and family of Stan and Sherwood Jones, man. Thank you for watching this episode. And if you want to see more interviews like this, please subscribe to the Vicktory Life YouTube channel. This is all for other people's legacy. And these two gentlemen right here showed you what hard work, dedication, and commitment got. Two guys I look up to, two guys I respect, and I thank God for this interview, and also those that support Vicktory Life, and also those that respect and also know Stan and Sherwood Jones and their family, man. So, like I say, every episode, no matter what you do, no matter where you go, make sure you have a positive impact and you have a great legacy. Thank you guys both for jumping on. I appreciate y'all.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.